Hi everyone, we're back with the 2020 Biz Kickstart event, and I'm joined in the virtual studio with Hannah. Is going to talk to us about how she manages to manage her day, how she manages her life. She's got businesses, she's got family, she's got all kinds of stuff going on, and how she jumps through all those hoops, which was a funny thing to start with because that's one of the businesses that she has. It's a hula hoop fitness business, if I remember right. So Hannah, share a bit about you, say hey, and how you got started.
Hi everyone. My name's Hannah Murphy. I'm a mum of three, so I've got three children, all under the age of 12, and I currently run three businesses, mainly working from home. So that's how I kind of manage it. My husband, who works away in the week, a lot of people do ask how I do it. But as I said, I've made it work around the children. Basically, I've made my business work for me, and yeah, as you mentioned, jumping through hoops, because I'm actually a professional hula hooper, and one of my businesses is a fitness franchise which offers hula hoop, dance, fitness, sports classes, mainly to schools and other organisations around the UK. I like to hula hoop still as a hobby. I do it for a little girl, but that's how I kind of came up with the title Jumping Through Hoops, which is the name of my podcast and also my coaching business. So that's another one of my business.
It's a shame you can't show us any. That'd be pretty.
I could have done. I've got plenty of hula hoops in my garage. I could have done that.
It's that's something that I can never do, right? And you know, I know it wasn't really a guy thing, but you know, when you're a guy, you just sort of think when you're like 5 or 6 and you're like, I want to give this hula hooping a go. And I just couldn't do it. And I was stubborn, I kept trying, and it just wouldn't go around. I'm just like, okay, my hips aren't built for this thing. So it was one of, I sat there and I gone, oh, maybe skipping's for me. So that was my thing. It was hula hoop or skip, and I chose skip. So what got you involved with that then? Was it a school thing? Was it something that you thought, you know, I've graduated from one hoop to two hoops, and I just sort of keep going? Like, what's the origin story of that?
I actually fell into it almost by accident. That wasn't my first job. My first job wasn't in dance and fitness. I actually started out as an air hostess and trained as a pilot. And that actually, I qualified as a pilot, and that was what I was going to do. It was my dream career. And then I actually fell pregnant with my first child, which was quite unexpected. Kind of, it meant I had to change course. Basically, I sort of had to not give up my dream of becoming a pilot, but I had to just put it to the side for a while. Then I went on to get married and have another two children. And I think I realised that I didn't actually want to go back to working for the airlines, because I'd already worked for the airlines as cabin crew. And I knew being a pilot, even though, you know, it was my dream, I didn't want to go back to that schedule of working for someone else and being told that I couldn't have Christmases, birthdays, you know, days off for plays with my children. I think my priorities just changed, and I realised that I needed to find another path. I fell into the hula hooping because I was actually trying to find a way to tone up, actually, after having my son, my middle child, and searching for ways of basically toning up the tummy again. And yeah, I saw this hula hoop workout and I tried it, and I got completely addicted to it. And then family and friends would come around and I'd have hula hoops in my lounge and everyone wanted to have a go. And that's when I realised actually I was onto something, because people were they really loved it. I realised how fun it was. And it was then my oldest daughter's school, actually, one of her teachers tagged on to the fact that I did it. And she asked if I could go in and teach a class to the children one lunchtime. And I went in and 60 kids all having fun with the hoops, and I realised that it was such a feel-good factor, and I realised I was on something. And the school asked me to start a club, an after-school club, and it was booked out in literally minutes. Everyone wanted their kids to do it, and it was actually really good money as well, and I loved it, and my daughter could come with me as well, and it kind of that's how that business grew. I started teaching at full capacity. There's only 5 school days in a week, so I could only do 5 different schools. More and more schools were asking for it because there was no one else doing it. And so I then had to take on teachers. So I recruited fitness instructors and dance teachers, and I trained them up, and then they went into schools. So now what I do is I get contracts with schools for clubs and workshops, and I send teachers out. It's the hula hooping is still the big selling factor. It's like that niche that I found.
Yeah.
But what I've also added into the business model is other dance workshops and sports workshops, because the people I work with they've all got lots of experience in different types of sports and dance. So that's it. You know, it was almost by accident I fell into that, but I found a little niche and I went with it, and I managed to make it fit into my life. So instead of going out, I don't go out now 5 days a week and teach. In fact, I don't really teach anything. I'm mainly at home, sort of just getting the contracts with schools and sending teachers out. So I'm kind of like the middleman now. So it's kind of, I've made it work for me really. But I still pick and choose some workshops that I'll go and teach, or I'll perform sometimes still. So yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, did you have a system in place when you first started teaching other people? So, because I'm reasonably well versed in the fitness industry as well, is most instructors go to accredited courses, and they go to courses that all, you know, because from what I remember, it's the reps system, I think, in the UK. And was that something that you had to, did you like foresee it and go, getting busy now, more skills and I know what to do with, I need to look into creating something that I can get other people to do it so I can chill out at home? Like, what was the process? Not when you do it, because, you know, sometimes there is just doing it, but there's always going to be a build up. There's always going to be something, because no one goes from 5 skills a week and goes, okay, course, everything, 24 hours done, ready to go. There's always a sense of like, I can feel this happening. What was it like for you?
Yeah, so yeah, it was quite a process of, you know, I found it quite hard actually. You know, I've jumped through all the hoops basically. As you mentioned, reps. Yeah, I wrote my own training course so that I could train other teachers, and I had that endorsed actually with reps and the EMD Academy, which is the sort of the governing body of exercise and fitness in the UK. Which meant that, you know, it was an accredited training. So when I trained up these teachers and sent them into schools, it meant that they had the right qualification. Yeah. And that was quite a lengthy process. It took about 12 months. I mean, I had to write all the training manuals myself as well. And, you know, I would be sitting up through the night. I'd be feeding my youngest while writing in another hand, you know, and it was really hard. But, you know, no one else was doing it. I realized I didn't have any competition with it, and it was like now or never, because someone will jump on this if it's not me. So yeah, it was quite a lengthy process, and then recruiting people was difficult. You know, it's always difficult, isn't it, with people. I had a lot of time wasters. I've had to deal with a lot of ups and downs with freelance staff. Sometimes not showing up at classes, you know, letting me down and things, which just comes with the territory, doesn't it, if you're going to take on and rely on other people. So yeah, it's quite a process, and I managed to you learn as you go. I think, you know, I made a lot of mistakes along my way. I spent out a lot of money on being memberships of different things, which I thought would bring in the money and make it look better, and actually it made no difference. It was an awful waste of money, some of it. You learn, and then you don't do it again. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and now I'm at the point, as I say, that I'm able to sit back a bit more, and I've refined the whole business, and to basically take on reliable people. I found reliable people, and obviously the more if you go into schools and you get reputation, like a good reputation, then they'll book you again for the following year. and, you know, it's sort of repeat business. And yeah, I've managed to find systems to make it work, basically.
Yeah, I mean, just having you sort of having this image in my head of like baby in one arm, pad and pen in the other, sort of like trying to write everything and feed everyone and juggle everything. And a lot of people talk about work-life balance, don't they? And it didn't confuse me at first until I got busy. So this is one of those things where I sort of share my own story a little bit. Is that when I first started, well, I meant to mention this quite a bit off air to a lot of people. It's like, I didn't need a diary when I first started out, and it was amazing. It was so good. But now I've got a diary and now I'm busy. I can't not use one. I don't have the mind power to cope with like 20 things in a day and then meetings and then putting out fires.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm talking to you and I glance ever so slightly at my phone and I've got 4 messages and it's like, how long have we been going? Like 10 minutes? So it happens all the time. It's something that just keeps going. And I was like, okay, work-life balance is a weird term because when is it ever balanced? It makes no sense. So then I started to think, well, maybe you start off work-life balance because you're not as busy, but then 3 businesses, 3 kids, you've got to feed them, you've got to take them to and from school, you start sort of creating your own stuff and then dealing with stuff as it comes along as well. Mm-hmm. Like, I imagine you do a lot of multitasking, but what have you got a system for like doing this? Or is it literally a case of I've got 2 minutes, the baby's having a nap, I'll do it now? Like what's your day normally like?
Yeah, so what I have basically trained myself to do is I wake up before the kids now. I mean, I'm luckily now my youngest is coming up for 4, so she's not a baby anymore. She sleeps through the night. You know, if anyone's listening to this that has got newborn babies, I don't recommend missing out on sleep. To you know, I think enjoy your baby while they're young and get rest when when you can. If that's anything I could have gone back in time and done, I would have done that, I think, in hindsight. But now, obviously, my youngest is 4, my oldest is 12, and they're all fairly independent. So and they sleep all night, which is good. That's a bonus. It means I sleep. I wake up an hour before they all wake up in the morning. So I set my alarm without fail at 6 a.m. every day. Mm-hmm. Apart from Sundays, I tend to give myself a bit of a break. But 6 a.m. every day, I'll get up, and they don't get up until about 7:15, which gives me a whole hour. And that's from 5-6 days a week, which, amounts to 5-6 hours a week that I get to work on my business and on myself as well, self-care. So that sets me up, basically. That hour in the morning sets me up for my day. So I have a more productive day. I'll get, first of all, I don't go straight into business stuff when I wake up. I'll come and sit downstairs and I'll enjoy a coffee in peace on my own. And I might do a bit of meditation. I find that really helpful for mindset. So 3-minute meditation. And then what I'll do is I'll work on my business. I won't work in it in the morning. So I set myself 3 goals a week. So 3 things that I want to achieve, and I'll look at those in the mornings. I won't reply to emails and things first thing. I'll allocate myself 1 afternoon a week to do emails. Mm-hmm. But in the morning I work on my business. So I'm moving it forward, basically. So it could be finding new contracts for schools, new opportunities, looking for new opportunities, networking with people, and then my other business, which is my coaching business, I might start writing some material, so some course material, and then I put aside usually Monday or Tuesday afternoon. My youngest is at nursery, so I'll set myself 2 hours in the week to reply to emails. And I know obviously emails come in throughout the week, and a lot of people say, oh yeah, they're quite strict and they'll wait to the day that they've set aside. I don't. I kind of email back as I go, because it starts to mount up otherwise. But yeah, from when I pick up the children from school at 3:30, 4 o'clock, I can't do anything in the evenings business related. My evenings are just focused on them, taking them off to clubs, doing dinner, and getting them to bed. And then I like to, I need my time as well in the evenings, like an hour or so to read or watch TV before I go to sleep. So I do everything earlier on in the day, basically, and I'm a lot more productive. It doesn't, everyone's different, and obviously it depends what people do. But for me personally, as a mum, I find it easier to have that hour in the morning when my mind is fresh and clear, and I've got a lot more clarity in the morning. So I tend to be able to work more productively in the mornings. So I call it my power hour. And I find that really works, and that's what helps me basically, and that's how I manage to. I mean, like you said, I don't think the perfect work-life balance exists. There'll be days. Today we were late for school. Actually, we were 10 minutes late for school because it was frosty. Children didn't want to get up and get ready. It doesn't always go smoothly, and there's no perfect work-life balance. But I think I've come as close to that balance as what I can. I'm in a place where I allocate my time quite well, and I also managed to get in quite a lot of self-care for myself. I've been to the gym for an hour this morning. I had that time for myself, and then I came back and I've done some work this afternoon. So it's hard, like I say, balance. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think you have to just do what works for you in your life. But yeah, I mean, waking early is definitely key.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I'm starting to see a lot of is the whole get it done before like everybody else wakes up, whether that's family, friends, the rest of the world, right? If you think about, I mean, now it's difficult with everything being worldwide, but there was the whole sense of, okay, if everyone that I work with tends to be up, ready to go, ready for work for 9, if I can be ready to go for 8 or even 7 sometimes, I can be ahead and I can get a lot done before I start having to deal with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
There's a real sense of like, okay, quiet, let's see what I can do. And I went through a phase of doing this before, before things got a bit out of hand. But I used to think it was almost like, I felt a bit sneaky. I don't know if you did, where like it's so quiet, it's nice and cool. I'm sat there going, should I be working? This is really weird. Like, why aren't I in bed? What's going on? This feels really weird, me sat there on my own, cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and like, this feels really weird. You're working. Oh my God, it's so quiet. It's almost like when I was in school, sometimes I'd get ready for like food before everybody else. I'd like sneak out, run down, I'd sit there. When you hear the stampede of everybody else coming in, it's that sort of thing. I sat there working, and next minute you'll hear everyone else's alarms go off, everyone get up out of bed, and you're sat there working going, this feels really weird, this really weird sense of like, why am I up before everybody else? But sometimes it is the only way. You've got so much to do, so much to plan, so much to do. There's only so much time in the day, you've got to sort of find a way. But this is a big but. I want to have a discussion about, because you mentioned like an hour a day, everyone's going to be like, ooh, 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
I think we need a sense of like, okay, you must have some other time when you do stuff, when you do sit down and go, right, work time. Because what I don't want people to think is, oh, Hannah's got it all sorted. She's got 3 kids, 3 businesses, and she does the 4-hour work week. I mean, oh my God, that is like perfect scenario. How does she do it? And then your answer's probably going to be, well, I don't do 4 hours for the start. So what else do you do aside from the power hour?
So as I say, I mean, my youngest is now at nursery, which makes things a little bit easier for me. So I actually have, she's at nursery 3.5 days a week. So those 3.5 days a week now, I will work at home. I do make sure I have at least an hour to 2 hours of those days to myself as well. Like I say, I'll go to the gym, or I'll do a class, or I'll go for a swim, or I'll just take time just to go for a walk or read, just do something for myself. But yeah, I mean, I like I say, I allocate either a Monday or Tuesday usually to answering emails. So the hours in the morning, like I say, I work on my business, and then either a Monday or Tuesday afternoon is when I work in my business, replying to emails and so on. And I mean, I have someone who does assist me a little bit with, she just does a bit of my admin as well. So outsourcing does help me. So definitely outsource. I also have a cleaner.
Oh, okay.
Everyone thinks that's a luxury, but it's about using your time more effectively. So I think for, the 2 hours that someone comes to clean my house, instead of me having to spend my 2 hours cleaning the house, I can be working on more course materials. I can be working on something that's going to make me a lot more than £20, and which is what I pay the cleaner. So outsourcing is another big thing that really, really helps. I mean, I say on average, I probably work, 8 hours a week. I probably spend on work. So haven't got it quite down to the 4 hours, but about 8 hours in total probably now. But before, when I was setting it all up and I was writing all the courses for my fitness business, it would be 60-70 hours a week that I'd be spending. It's what you put in the beginning, isn't it? But that's how you start, isn't it? And you have that end goal in sight, which is what where I've reached now, getting that so-called balance, I suppose.
Yeah, so you mentioned outsourcing, you mentioned the power hours, sort of being a bit strict with your time as well. I find like you've got that hour, that's as long as it can last. You've got that couple of hours, that's how long it can last. How disciplined are you? You mentioned that you were late for school, but I mean, that's only 10 minutes. I mean, the world's not going to end if it's only 10 minutes. It's not like you skip a day because you can't make it because of a meeting or whatever. So I imagine there's a bit of like leeway with that. But how disciplined do you tend to be with your time?
I am fairly disciplined with my time. I mean, what I've started to do now is say no to a lot of things. I used to be very much saying yes and spending a lot of my time being, I don't know how to say it, but I would be giving a lot of my time to people because I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought it was people would come to me for advice. I actually work with my mum and sister. We run a hair and beauty salon as well. And I would be spending an awful lot of time in that business dealing with very trivial issues, which, because I would be sucked in, I suppose, by, the feeling of guilt, I think. And I think in the last few months, I've definitely set boundaries and I've started to basically say no. I'm really sorry. I can't meet you today to help you with whatever it is you need my help with. Obviously I want to help people, but you get to a point, I think, where you're giving so much away, like so much of your energy, that there's nothing left for you and what's important. And I think having to say no, and that's made me a lot more disciplined. I think now I've freed myself up with so much time by filtering out the things that were just wasting my time.
Have you got any creative ways of saying no? I mean, I've got a couple that I tend to use. Some of them are not very good, but I don't know. It's like if you say it short enough and just like full stop and then wait for them to respond, like you don't. I've gotten to a habit now. I don't know about you. Of sometimes I have the reason why embedded in the no a little bit. So like if anyone asks why, you say, well, I've already told you why. Like I've already said, I've got another meeting, or I've got this, or I've got that. What sort of creative ways have you got of saying no to people?
I wouldn't directly just be rude to someone and just say no. I suppose I've just found a polite way of letting people know that I value my time too much. I think people have got the gist of what I'm trying to say to them. I mean, I haven't lost friends, thankfully. I haven't lost, I think my mum and sister with the salon, they understand that I've stepped back from that now quite a bit. And I think people just don't, I think they've just stopped asking now because, you know, it's what I wanted. But I mean, I wouldn't say creative, where I think it's just being polite and honest,
Yeah.
quite honest. And that's it, really.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing because I used to hear a lot whereby you shouldn't have to justify saying no. You should be able to just say no. But the problem that I found was I couldn't do that. I couldn't just turn around to someone and go no, and that be it. Like, it just felt really weird. It felt like I felt like a robot. It was like just say no and just have no feelings at all, no empathy, no whatever. I was just like, I literally can't do that. It's physically impossible for me to go no. That doesn't mean I don't say no, but it's like if I don't have a reason why, like why can't I? You know, and it's like I can't just say no. It doesn't work. You know, if I have got a meeting or I have got a client or like this event's taken up quite a bit of my time in terms of organising, getting people involved, rearranging stuff, organising the promotions, and some of the guests have asked for the recordings, and it's all go for an entire month. And if I have my friends go, oh, fancy meeting over a coffee, and it's when I'm talking to yourself or somebody else, and I'm organising emails or graphics, because I don't have a team as much as I used to now. I do my own design because I enjoy it, so I do more of it. So I sit down and go, I can't do it. I've got that much going on. I can't just drop everything and go out for a coffee unless it's a time when I can actually do it. And I found people are quite happy with that. I've never had, it's similar to yourself, I've never lost friends over, look, you know, we are just busy people. Like if I try to organise a coffee with you when you're in work, you're going to say no because you're in work, you know, and that's just the way it tends to work. But I have had a couple of people sort of get up in arms about it, and I say, well, if it was reversed, you would just say no and expect me to be happy about it or be okay with it, you know. So you start having that conversation with them eventually, and they do start to understand, I find.
Yeah. Well, I used to work in the hair and beauty salon. I used to do beauty treatments, and that transition of stepping back from that to grow my other business, that was hard because that's when I really had to start saying no, because people would just go, oh, can you just fit me in for this appointment? And to begin with, I would do it because I just felt guilty to say, you know, I felt bad saying no. But I think what I realised is that it was taking all my time, and I was coming home to my family and not being able to give them any of my time or energy. I would get upset, you know, it would just get to a point, and all for what, you know, when you think how would, you know, as the roles reversed, I don't think someone else would do that for me. So I think you just start growing a thicker skin naturally anyway when you start running a business. Like your priorities just somehow you manage to prioritize things more, and as I say, you just grow a thicker skin. Last year and the year before, when I was growing my fitness business, and I actually had a hula hoop school which I opened up in our local town, and we had a group of children put into like a dance group, and they went and auditioned for Britain's Got Talent.
Wow.
And that was probably the most stressful time in my business, and that's when I kind of grew the thick skin, because the parents, I don't know if anyone's ever watched Dance Mums. It's like an American show. It's all about basically the mums of these kids that go to a dance school, and that they all get so involved. And I thought, you know, this is an overreaction, but obviously when I then experienced it firsthand, this group of kids that we put together for this audition, and the parents, how involved they got, and I received an awful lot of abuse from them. Their expectations of me were like out of this world, like thinking that I could make their child famous, you know, and these, you know, I'd be getting a message from the parents at like midnight sometimes, asking me things like silly questions about, can I change the time of the class that we were putting on, and things like, you know, and it was just, to begin with, I would go along with it because I wanted to please everyone. I wanted to be a people pleaser. And I wanted them to keep coming back to the classes. I wanted to keep them happy. But in doing that, I was making myself quite unhappy. And, you know, I would reply to them at midnight. And I think now I would never do that now. And I think it just came to the point where enough's enough. You know, I think it was probably, they went for this audition, and then I think it was 2 days later, some of the children that hadn't got through, like the parents, started saying, I had these essays, these emails, these messages on a Sunday, and my husband just said to me, look, enough's enough. If you reply to that email, then, you know, you're stupid, basically. Like, if you reply to that now on a Sunday, and I think something just sort of hit me then. I think I realised how much it was affecting me, and gave me an awful lot of anxiety. You know, naturally, I didn't want to go out and about because I didn't want to bump into these parents. And I realised how anxious it was making me, and actually then I realised that also, like, why was I doing this? There wasn't even they weren't even bringing in that much money. When I applied like the 80-20 rule to my business and realised where the money was coming from, they were like in the minority. Yeah. So I'm like, what am I doing? This is madness. And I think I just started to grow a thicker skin, and that was enough's enough. And actually I closed that hula hoop school last September, and then I kept it now just as contracts with schools where I remain like the middleman, and I don't have any involvement with parents anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I used to be a tennis coach myself.
Okay.
And working with like the expectations,
yeah,
sometimes the egos of some of the other parents, you know, like the parents that think their kid's going to be the next Wimbledon, and it's like, look, you might be amazing locally, but enter the big wide world and you're like in like the tens of millions of players that are actually any good. And the problem that you'll find as well, or you probably did find, is that it's hard, because I was in the same boat as you. Like, I'd rearrange sessions, I'd organise like extra sessions for the better players, I'd do this, and this. And as you say, before you know it, like, I went through a phase of actually losing myself a little bit, because I spent so long trying to please them that I forgot what I wanted. Yeah. I forgot what I went through a phase of forgetting who I was at some point, because I was listening to them so much that I wasn't listening to myself at all. And yeah, I completely empathize with that. And I find as well, I don't know if you did, but if it's online, or if it's email based or text based or hands off as they call it, it's very, very easy to just say no, or not answer, or don't do any of those things. But when you're stood there in front of the kids, and it's like, I can't. Yeah. It completely disarmed me to the point where it was like, I've got no chance of saying no now. Like, I've literally got no way. Because that's why we do it. That's why I did it. I started coaching when I was like 16, and I really, really enjoyed seeing the kids' faces. And it was like, I can't do it. I can't say no to the kid when they're stood there with their little racket wanting to play tennis. And it's like, no, I physically can't say no. So what I started to do was I started to reply via text message, and then just stand by that text message. I just say, oh, did you get my text message? I'd start doing that sort of thing with them, rather than having to have the full-on conversation with them, with the kid stood there, because you think, what am I doing to this child? Like, what on earth am I doing? Mm-hmm. And but yeah, it must have been hard as well, because with everything that you were doing, you had the beauty salon, there was you physically doing stuff. Mm-hmm. You had the hula hoop business, which was you physically teaching the kids and how to do those things. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is hands-on. A lot of it is like, I've got to do this thing. Like, it's my time, it's my energy, it's my focus. I do it because I love it. Like, what was your third business as well? When did that start?
So that's my jumping through hoops, and that's my coaching. So there's one-on-one business coaching that I do with people now, startups. And I mean, I work with anyone, but my main audience is actually mums that are perhaps on maternity leave and they don't want to return to their career, they want to start their own business, and they basically want to build their business around their family. So that's what I now do as well, on the side. So yeah, but yeah, it was when I look back now and I think how many balls I was juggling, and I think how I don't know how I did it. It was silly though, you know, it was the point where it was silly. I don't recommend it.
No, I mean, looking back now, I've the same sort of feeling as you of, I don't think I could do it now. I mean, I've got the thicker skin, but I couldn't. It's still just that sense of it's your own time, it's you're physically there, and it's the impact of saying no. You're a bit more hands-on, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I was forced to slow down a little bit as well and reassess everything, because then my husband got a job where he was going to be away in the week, and you know, like the kids were they're the priority. So from 4 o'clock onwards, there's no scope for me to be doing anything else. Like, it's them and that's it. So I was forced to say no to stuff anyway at that point. And I think you just suddenly you get a realization just hits you eventually, doesn't it? But you know, I'm pleased in a way. I am pleased that I did all of that, because I learned so many lessons from it. I had no one to guide me. I just learned as I went, and obviously now it's a great thing because I can help other people and help them avoid making the mistakes that I made.
Yeah, I think most people tend to have this grey area when you go from being hands-on to, as you say, like taking the odd job because you feel guilty for saying no. How did you manage to do that? What was your days like? What was your weeks like? What was your schedule tend to be like when you want to detach from it, but then the push pull of I can't really afford to say no to these people. What was that transition like?
So when I went from sort of teaching all the classes to stepping back and then putting other people in to teach classes, and obviously left doing all the beauty and so on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I phased out doing the beauty. I didn't just stop overnight. I just kept a handful of regular clients that I liked, and and then basically, because I didn't take the appointments, it was in the salon, someone else, that made it a little bit easier, because they were just like, no, sorry, Hannah's not in anymore. And that was that. And then gradually phased out the regular clients that I'd kept, because, you know, actually a lot of them were friends, and I think that I'd just talk to them and tell them about my life, and I think they kind of just knew that I wasn't going to be continuing, and that was fine. And then from when I was teaching all the classes to changing that to putting other people in to teach classes, that was like a transition really. I think the right people came along at the right time, which tends to happen. That's life, you know, something will always, everything's always work out. So, I mean, I had a couple of local teachers who they're actually friends now, and they came in and they took over my classes, so I didn't have to actually stop doing the classes. They took them on and they loved it. So I was able to step back. And that's how I managed to phase that out and transition there. And that, what that did is that allowed me more time to not be so busy in the business. I could actually then step back, reassess everything and see what was working and what wasn't. And that's how I was able to grow the business and take it across the country, because I realized, again, the 80-20 rule, which I applied to it, where 80% of my profits were coming from workshops in schools. They weren't coming from regular classes where you had to try and fill the numbers all the time. They were actually coming from contracts with the schools, which, you know, the schools, they get support funding from the government to pay for these types of things. So they want them. And so my time was then able to be put into emailing schools and contacting schools and building relationships with schools to get the contracts. And then it was also able to be put into finding freelance teachers, which I thought, oh, you know, it'd be quite hard to find people out of my local area. How am I going to find someone? For example, I'm on the South Coast. How am I going to find someone up in Newcastle to go and do this school workshop in Newcastle? But actually, the power of social media and building connections through Facebook groups, like the fitness instructor, dance instructor groups, it's very easy to build connections and find people that want that work. And so I was able to step back then and really assess what was working. And that's when I got rid of a few regular classes in my area, like the hula hoop school that I was talking about previously. That went because that, again, like I said before about applying that 80-20 rule, that was bringing me less than 20% of my profits. So yeah, I was able to reassess it all when I was able to step back. But I had to go through that little transition bit in order to be able to do that. Yeah.
One of the things that I found quite interesting was that you were able to do all of the assessing, all of the, you know, what's working, what's not, what is the 80% of what you want, where's that coming from, and all those things. You did that while you were transitioning, but you did it with the extra time. Is this something that you couldn't have done beforehand? Is this something that you just didn't have the time or the mental energy or the physical energy to do it then?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all of them. I didn't have time. I didn't have any energy, mental, physical energy at all, because I was out teaching the classes, which were very physical, and I would come home completely drained. So I wouldn't be able to think. It was just go and carry on, you know, and there wasn't time to step back and look at it all. And I think it was over, not this last Christmas gone, the previous year, at Christmas time, December, everything slows down. So that's the time I was just able to stop and reassess it all and really look at it all from, you know, outside really. And then, yeah, you realise, I think, I mean, if anyone's listening and they're going like full on right now in their business, and what I would say is take a day if that's all you've got, 2 ideally, a week if you can. Take the time and just stop for a moment and try and reassess everything. Writing, journaling really helps me, and I did this exercise actually end of December, and it's basically what I did to set myself up for 2020 for this year. Is I asked myself 3 questions, and the first question is what had I really enjoyed doing in 2019 that I wanted to take more of into 2020. And I wrote down a list of 3 to 5 things that I enjoyed doing, that worked well, and I want to take with me. Then my second question on there was what didn't I want to take with me, and what do I not ever want to do again, because it made me feel anxious, or it just didn't sit well, it didn't feel good. So I made a list of those things. Mm-hmm. And then my third question was like, what do I want? What new experiences do I want to find in 2020? So sitting down and just having that time to write those questions, and really, it's a great exercise, because that question 2 is really important. What don't you want to repeat? Or most importantly, what doesn't make you feel good? Like, everyone kind of has that. You get that inhuman instinct, don't you? If something doesn't make you feel good. Yeah. I mean, I would, for an example, is the hula hoop group that I had, you know, I would go and I'd feel anxious before I'd even got there. I'd feel anxious in the car on my way and not wanting to go. It got to a point like that in my beauty business where I had someone booked in and I really didn't want to do it. When you get to that point, I think, you know, I don't think there's any going back from that. I think once you've lost that kind of passion or drive from something, like, that's it, it's got to go, you know, because there's other things that I was passionate and driven about, and that's the things you've got to go with.
Yeah, I like those 3 questions, actually. It's something that I guess people have a bit more spare time over Christmas. I'm not sure why, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I guess everyone just stops. Things slow down, don't they?
Which is, it's an interesting concept, because, as you mentioned, sometimes you've got to actually force it. Sometimes you've got to force yourself to have the day off. You've got to
Yes.
force yourself to switch off for that day or two, for that week or two. I mean, whenever I try to switch off, it takes me a day to get to a point where I can switch off.
Mm.
So one day is never it's never going to work, because by that time I was like, oh, I've got tomorrow now. I've got to go back to it again. So when I did this a couple of years ago, it was like a day's not going to be enough. I need at least like 3 or 4,
Yeah.
whereby I can pre-schedule things in. This is one of the things that I sort of learned as well, is that if you do that, you put it in your diary, I'm taking 3 or 4 days off, you start to structure everything like on the build up to it.
Mm.
So I started pre-scheduling things in, letting people know I'm having the sabbatical, setting like auto responders in, doing all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't normally do,
Mm.
because I was having those 3 or 4 days off. And then after those 3 or 4 days, I was like, what if I did this every week? Like what if I did this all the time, whereby, yeah, I'd still be working, but I'd have all of the bases covered. You know, when you said you do emails like once a week,
Yeah.
big chunk once a week, but you go through if there's any urgent ones sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
every day. It's like, yeah, that just makes sense. But I've got to organize my emails, send the autoresponders that let people know that that's how I do my emails. And yeah, happy days. I mean, as you say, it's a lot of work in the beginning, but it saves you so much. I think people need to do it. If everyone took a week off, I think
Mm.
everyone's actions and what they did before that week off would tell people like, oh, I can have a week off, you know, and the world doesn't end.
Yeah.
So it's a good exercise, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people just they this whole like hustle and work harder mentality is it's very common, isn't it? I mean, I use my mum for an example actually, who she runs a salon, and even when she goes on holiday, she doesn't switch off from it. She just won't. She'll have to be calling them every day at the salon, check it. Just I think it's I don't know why she feels like she needs to do that, because she has got staff in place. That's the whole point, isn't it? Of you running a business and taking on staff, is so that you can actually reap the reward and get some of your time back.
Yeah.
But it's just built into her that this, you know, I've got to keep on and on. You know, if I stop and if I lose that control, it's all going to fall apart. But it's actually not. And if people just tried it, they'll see that it's actually not going to fall apart. It will still keep ticking along.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose as well, like if one like 15-20 minute phone call is enough to relieve a stress for the entire day, it might be worth doing. But you know, if you're, because I used to do like text messages, and I'd be sat waiting for the reply, and I'm like winding myself up, like, oh, what's going on? I've not replied. Oh my God, what's going? And you realise that if I just set a look, okay, every day, 9 o'clock, half an hour phone call, let me know what the day is, let me know what the plan is, and then just tick things off on a group sort of Google Drive or Slack or whatever it is that you use, just so I can just quickly check just to make sure that everything is going well. That's better. You just have to figure out what works for you. I mean, the amount of like CEOs and business owners that like, I have a meeting with my staff every single day. It's on like Zoom, like this is, or it's on something else, and that's enough to put my mind at ease for the entire day. So surely that's going to be better for them than like constantly messaging people and emailing people, and it's
Yeah.
about finding out how you manage it. But yeah, I completely get the whole unable to switch off thing. And does things like meditation and journaling that you mentioned before, is that how you can help with that switch off?
Yeah, so I do put a lot of like the way I deal with things now, like I'm able to take everything sort of in my stride now, and I put that down to meditation and yeah, as you say, journaling, writing everything down, everything that's in my head, writing it down. But yeah, meditation is again something I sort of fell into. I was always a little bit dubious of things like that, skeptical. You know, if you haven't tried it, I think that's the way a lot of people probably think. It's a little bit ooh, like, but actually, when you do it, it's not really something I can put into words. It just changes you. It just changes your mind. You're able to, you're just able to cope a lot more with everything.
Yeah, for sure.
it's literally life changing. So that's what I put everything down to, really.
Yeah, it's interesting when people start to do it, don't they? I mean, I personally find it too hard to meditate. I find that my brain churns a bit too quick for that. It churns quick anyway. And when you meditate, it's like I can't make sense of any of it. So it used to work, and then it was like, I got no chance now. I need something a bit more intense than sat there in the dark. So I do a lot of other things now that do make a big difference. But yeah, you're right. If you can't manage your stress levels or your like mental pressure that you put on yourself, you can only handle so much before you break. I've found, and the amount that I can take on because I have the breaks, because I do what I do. It's kind of like it's almost like interval training for the business. Like you can't sprint forever and expect to be like not injured, or you wake up like, oh, I didn't have a lot of sleep. It's because you're probably too stressed out all day. You didn't take any smaller breaks, which impacts your sleep. So it was kind of like the more I rest, the more I recover, the more, you mentioned self-care as well, the more I look after myself, the faster I can go when I am switched on, and the more I can get done when I am actually physically powering through. This power hour thing that you called it, right? If I don't sleep well, the power hour goes away. Like I'm lying there going, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. What's going on? I haven't slept in properly in ages. What's happening? So you start to reverse engineer it. You start to work backwards, don't you? Like you start, okay, power hour in the morning, which means I have to sleep. Which means I have to look after myself in the evening and make sure that I can sleep. Otherwise, the power hour goes out the window, and I may as well turn around and go, well, tomorrow's a write-off. So what's your evening routine like? Because we're talking about power hours, we're talking about making the most of our time so that you can manage everything that you do. That implies that you do prioritize your sleep and your energy quite well. So do you have an evening routine?
Yeah, I mean, when I pick up the kids from 4 o'clock onwards, we are full on because the three of them do pretty much every day. My two older ones are at football teams, so I spend a lot of time having to get them off to football training. And we're not usually home until 7 o'clock, 7:30 sometimes, which is actually some like my younger one needs to be in bed at that time. So I'm quite organised with food, like our meal plan at the weekends, and I'll do an online shop. I don't go out to the shops because I haven't got time. I do an online shop. I meal plan and I have everything ready. So on the days like that I know we're not going to have time to be cooking, I'll make I mean, they have a cooked dinner at school, so I'll make like a picnic tea ready for the car for them to have, and then make sure they've all eaten, and then we'll come in, there'll be bath, bedtime, homework, and once they're all in bed, usually around 8-9 o'clock now for my 12-year-old, because she has a lot of homework, and I will make sure that once I've like done washing up and washing and everything else, but from 9 o'clock I'm quite strict. I try not to do anything else after that. So 9 o'clock I'll actually sit down. If there's something I might want to watch on Netflix or the TV, I might sit and watch something for an hour, or I'll read a book, or I do a bit of evening yoga, and and I'll just do something to relax myself, really. Have a hot bath. If I haven't been to the gym and had a shower, I'll have a nice bath at home with like oils and things, something like, and that's actually, I love using essential oils in the evenings as well, like put them in a diffuser. That helps me relax and unwind. And that just helps me sleep better as well. And I mean, I'm a bit guilty of being on my phone a lot. I think we are, aren't we now? This age that we're in, but I'm trying to be stricter with myself with screen time for myself. I preach it to my 12-year-old as much as I need to do it to myself, but before bedtime, not be on the phone, because I find that doesn't help me sleep. So yeah, I mean, my evening routine looks like that, and I try to be asleep by 10 o'clock if I can, so I'm ready to wake again at 6, and I find that's it's a good chunk of sleep, that.
Any particular oils or you know, things in the diffusers and things that you find particularly relaxing? So sort of, I know it's a bit specific in the weeds, and
Yeah.
people are gonna turn around to me and say, depends on the person.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does obviously depend on the person, but I mean, generally, like lavender is always is well known, isn't it, for its helping you sleep. So yeah, I like a lavender oil in the diffuser. That really helps me. And depending, as a woman, obviously on like hormones and things, you always get that time in the month when your hormones are you know, all over the place, and I can be quite emotional. So there's wild orange is always really helpful for those times. So that's a good one.
Yeah, cool. No, it's just when you think about how people tend to wind down, and you mentioned yoga and diffusers and things. I mean, a couple of people might be like, "Ooh, what would Hannah recommend for the diffusers?" Because a lot of people do get like, "Oh, it has to smell nice." Okay, but like the smelling nice, and then the smelling nice that also helps you relax as well.
Yeah, no, it does. It smells nice and it relaxes. I mean, I'm a bit of an OCD type of person. I like my house being clean, and obviously I have a cleaner once a week, but in the evenings, one of my things, and my husband, it drives him mad, but I like my kitchen, I like it clean before I go to bed, and I think that's just, because when I get up in the morning, I like my day to be fresh, and you know, I like to be clear, and I think with having a tidy environment and a clear environment really does help my head be clear. I know that's not the case for everybody, but for me, that's certainly the case. And I think that they do say like decluttering and keeping your environment tidy will help you as well. And I really do believe that.
Yeah. Do you do any like preparation the evening before your morning? Do you sort of, I know you mentioned that you clean the kitchen, but like, do you get like things out for breakfast the night before? Did you do any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, I have the kids' things out ready, but they're at the age now where I'm trying to teach them to be more independent, especially my 12-year-old. She's in senior school, so the idea is that she's meant to get up and actually help with the breakfast. And I actually sat back this morning. That's why we're late, I think, because I've made her do it. I mean, it's only putting a bit of toast in the toaster, isn't it? And a bit of cereal. It's easy for a 12-year-old to do. So I trying to get them to be more independent and do that, but sometimes when, you know, we're running late, I'm like, no, just leave it, I'll do it. But no, I mean, unless there's something, yeah, I mean, I'll make sure the kids have got uniforms and obviously everything ready for school the next day. I'll have that all put out for the next morning, and if I'm going to the gym, I have all my gym stuff out ready. And that's another thing I tend to get is, yeah, my clothes or outfit ready for the morning, because that helps. As a woman, I think you tend to spend ages figuring out what you're going to wear, so I always have clothes ready for the morning. So yeah, that helps.
Yeah, cool. It's just interesting to see how you manage to organize everything, but then equally you're trying to essentially train your kids to look after themselves to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. This age now, my 12-year-old this is difficult age. This is like the preteen hormone age, and it's a new world. It's an eye opener for me because she's my oldest. I haven't been through it myself yet, so I'm learning something every day, something new. And it's challenging. It's definitely challenging. We've got all the emotions with her, and at the moment, you know, and she's just started senior school, so it's a new school and new friends, and she's in a new routine with homework. So that's another reason why the evenings I cannot be spending any time on business stuff, because I'm actually having to sit and help her with her homework. And I know it's her homework, but you know, if I don't sit there with her and help her and support her, I mean, my parents didn't really do that with me. They didn't have time. They were both running businesses, so you know, I didn't ever have any help. But I that's one thing that I want to be able to do, is help her and support her with homework. My son as well, he's 8, so he's starting to have spellings and things. So obviously I'm having to spend time doing that in the evenings too. So yeah, you know, it's busy.
yeah, I can imagine. So it's good that you found what works for you as well, and I think a lot of people can take a lot from this, because if you think about businesses and kids and families and all those things, most people's evenings are pretty busy.
Yeah.
People's evenings are pretty busy. do you do anything work-wise in the evenings? And I say this as someone where, like, a lot of people's evenings are, as you say, they're on their phone, they're on their computer, they're watching TV, they've got that sort of thing. And I know that you do spend a lot of time on social media, and evenings tend to be when people are on social media.
Yeah.
If you don't post in the evenings, a lot of people will be like, does Hannah exist? Like, is she about? I never see her on my phone. So do you have anything in place for, like, the peak times when you're probably wanting to spend time on other things?
I mean, I don't really, as a rule, like do any kind of real work stuff in the evenings. I mean, unless there's anything urgent, like I've got a conference coming up in March, and I had to like type up a bio for myself, you know, and that's just like one-off stuff like that. It's urgent. I'll obviously have to do that and find time. But as a rule, I don't really do any sort of work-related stuff in the evenings. The only thing I do, which is more of like a social thing, I suppose, is I might do some Instagram stories and things around my family and my life, which I suppose is work related in a way, because that's a lot of those people watching their stories are my audience and my clients. But I don't class it as work. It's fun, it's enjoyable. So I wouldn't really class that as work. You know, networking with people sometimes within Facebook groups, if someone's asked a question in there, then yeah, I do like to get back to them, because I want to obviously build connections with people. But you know, no longer than sort of 30 minutes or so, nothing that's too time consuming. And obviously if it's enjoyable, then I don't really view it as work. You know, it's networking and communicating with people. I find I enjoy that. So, yeah.
No, it's just because a lot of people will be thinking, well, surely she has like a conflict somewhere. Surely she wants to be with the family, but then something happens at work and she has to do this. How on earth does she get it done? And sometimes, as you say, sometimes it doesn't feel like work, does it? If you're doing some things. And
yeah. I mean, I'm quite lucky, I suppose, with the business that I've got and what I do. It's not. There's just not really much. But I guess I've just refined it so that there isn't anything to really have to do in the evenings. I get everything out the way by a certain time, but then that's coming down to being disciplined and having no choice but to make it that way. Because, you know, even if people do email me in the morning, in the evening, and if they want an answer, I can't get back to them because I'm out, you know, driving kids around to clubs and doing all sorts of things like that. I just can't. So it's just not possible. So that's
it seems as well that you might even have like a you know, that voice in your head that's kind of like, well, I just got to be okay with that. You know, if someone's going to message or send you an email, and you've got to be okay with not getting back to them there and then sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, a lot of the time I think, okay, I'm tired now. You know, I really do get tired by about 8, half 8, and, you know, and that's my time. I'm going to start winding down, and I don't think about things. So I think I'll deal with it in the morning. Everything is always better dealt with in a clearer head anyway. So, you know, that's the way I see things now. I didn't used to. I used to be up through the night doing everything, thinking that was the way to do it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. I completely echo what you're saying. I mean, it's hard, and sometimes people only learn from mistakes, don't they? They don't learn from they don't learn from experience of others. Sometimes they have to go through it on their own steam.
Exactly. I think you learn sometimes as well. Like, I think I did a podcast episode about the topic less. Sometimes doing less is more, and you can get a lot more results from doing less. And you know, I haven't really realised that until the last few months, when actually I'm making the best profit I've made ever in my business from doing less. Which, you know, that seems weird, doesn't it? But it's being able to use my time effectively, and that's what it comes down to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be an element of if you do more of the effective stuff,
Yes.
you
Yes.
make more. You know, sometimes you do hit that ceiling of okay, I'm able to smash things out for half an hour, have a break, and you're probably like, well, could you do more half an hours like that? So
Mhm.
sometimes you do have that ceiling of if you only want to spend 2 hours a day, you're only going to be able to do so much, right?
Yeah.
There's that whole kind of you're all going to hit your limits sooner or later.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think sometimes you've got to figure out what doesn't work as well before you
Mm.
find out what does work.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I mean, if you can be productive doing all the things that you know are going to bring in the results and get rid of the rest of it, then I think you're winning, aren't you? And
Yeah,
that's
sure.
how I think I figured things out. Really, is the things that don't work. Try them by all means. You have to try things, don't you, to see what works and what doesn't. But when you really see a pattern emerging of things that don't work, it's got to go, and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we haven't got anyone joining us live, so before we finish, how can people find you, Hannah? How can people learn more about what you're up to?
So my website is jumpingthroughhoopswithhannah.com, and on there you can find the link to my podcast episodes, and my fitness company is globefit, so it's globefit.co.uk, and I'm also on Instagram, so you can follow me at I am Hannah Murphy.
All right. Awesome. Well, Hannah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you carving the time, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you very much.